Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur, and let's talk about Uber's timeout limit for long shifts. This story, boy, did this story blow up. Everybody and their mothers were contacting me. They wanted me to comment on this, and I was going to comment on it. I even was making a video, and I ended up scrapping that video because the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is actually a very unique situation and a unique news story in the rideshare world. And let me explain why. You see, for those who are not aware, Uber has set a forced break limit where if you drive more than 12 hours, and this is like 12 hours that the app is on, you will be forced to not turn on the app for 6 hours, thus necessitating that you basically take a nap or something. And here's the thing. I was not bothered by this at all. Not even a little bit. I even thought, like, this is like a nothing story. This shouldn't be a story. And amazingly, it was a big story, and it was a big deal for a lot of my viewers. Like, a lot of you guys were really genuinely pissed. I could feel the anger over this decision. And my question was, frankly, why? Why are you so upset about this? Because here's the thing. When you become entrepreneurs, don't you want to work less? I mean, I enjoy driving for Uber. I mean, I complain about the company all the time, but I enjoy the job. That might be one of the reasons I still do it sometimes, even though it doesn't really make me any money. But do I want to do it 12 hours or more? No. Heck, I burn out at around 3 to 4 hours because there's only so much driving you can do, and then you need a break, and then I sit down, and I start reading Game of Thrones or something, and then there's nothing. I just don't go back out. And before you know it, I'm watching YouTube videos that the mysterious Mr. Enter has produced, or I'm about to start Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Switch. I don't want to work 12 hours doing this. No. I don't even like working that long on YouTube videos, as you can probably figure out. I don't do a lot of editing. But amazingly, a lot of people were very, very upset. And a lot of people were furious because they felt this was Uber dictating what they could and couldn't do. And like, hey, Uber should not be telling me when I can and can't drive. And my response was very flippantly, well, who cares? I mean, seriously. Yeah, this is one of the... People have complained, like, do you ever say a good thing about Uber? And like, okay, this is a good thing. Uber should be forcing you to take breaks. You need to sleep. It is unsafe for you. It is unsafe for your passenger for you to be driving more than 12 hours. But then I thought about it more. And now we're going to complain about Uber a little bit again. Big shock. And because I realized the story was not what people were saying it was. The story is not that Uber is limiting people on how long they can drive. The story is that people are driving that long to begin with. And the question is not, why did Uber put these limitations? The question is, why are these limitations necessary? And that's where you have to go deeper into the subject. You have to think harder, and you have to realize this comes down to a very simple answer. The rates. I know people hate it when I gripe and moan about the rates because, of course, they're not going up. Of course, Uber will not give the drivers 1 cent more. Heck, Uber is deactivating drivers left and right for arbitrary reasons because they just have too much of them. It's the reason the surge has disappeared, among other things. And yeah, there's no reason for the rates to go up, at least not for Uber. But here's the thing. The rates are enforcing bad driver behavior. And that is a moral and political issue Uber needs to take into account. Because think about this. How many of you drive Uber on a more than part-time basis? Me, I have recently, because of recent life changes, said, I need to make this amount of money on Uber a day. And it's an amount that I find is fair. That combined with my YouTube, eBay, Amazon, because Shopify's down at the moment, and Etsy money, it combines to be worth it to me. And it's not much. It requires me to be on the road 2, maybe 3 hours a day, but I can usually make it. And it's my daily goal at the moment. But what if you're only doing Uber and Lyft? Then your goal has to be considerably higher if you are to make it, especially in places like California, New York City, Miami, and Miami, Florida. They have to be higher. And here's the thing. Like, say, for example, my daily goal used to be $100 a day. Now, that might sound outrageous to you guys. Like, what on earth are you thinking? Well, when I started doing it, getting $100 a day in 4 to 5 hours, that was not too difficult. It was not. You could do it. Heck, many days you even excelled and you exceeded. You could easily make $200 if you did a 7 or 8 hour shift. And that was good. That was really good. And then the rates go down. Well, now to make that $100, instead of doing 3 to 4 hours, I probably got to do 4 or 5. Then they cut the rates again. That's got to be 5 to 6. And then eventually I, at one point, gave up on that goal and realized how silly it was. Because only on Saturdays and sometimes Fridays could I actually make that goal. And it would be like a whole 8-hour day to do it. But now think about it. Some of these people who did it full time, they need that $100 a day. Heck, sometimes they need more than $100 a day. And the rates used to be here. Now they're here. So what do? They just drive. They drive and drive and drive. Low rates encourages more driving. High rates encourages less driving. That's why Uber did it. Well, that's one of the reasons they did it, but that is a key reason they did it. They wanted people to stay on the road longer, because if you have to work 2 or 3 times as much to make the same amount of money, desperate people or people in need will do it. And so you had people who at one point, 8 hours was not enough to make the money they needed to make. So they drive 9 hours, maybe they drive 10. And then in some cases, they start driving 12, and then 13, then 14. And Uber realizes they're getting complaints from people that their drivers are drowsy. They're sick. They aren't focusing. They hear stories about drivers falling asleep at the wheel of their vehicle. Now, Uber can't have that. They just cannot. And I agree with them. They do not need that. That is not safe. But here's where Uber's mistaken. And this is where everyone has been getting it wrong about the story. Uber puts a limit on how much you can drive. Now, again, that is a good thing. That is a good thing because you need to take breaks. But that's not the question. The question is not, what does Uber do to fix this problem? The question is, why did the problem begin in the first place? Because I don't know of a single sane person who would normally drive more than 8 hours. And yet, the problem of drivers driving more than 12 hours was a big enough concern that Uber had to mandate a solution. And why did people even get to that point? What made people feel they had to drive 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days? And the answer is the rates. They're not getting paid enough. And they have families to feed. In some cases, they have a high car payment that they got through an Uber program, and they need to pay off that car, pay their rent, feed their family, all on 72 cents a mile. Let's say 64 cents a mile. That's more of the average. And you know what? Some days you can actually do pretty good. If you get like a long ride that's like an hour, you could make $30 in an hour. That's great. What happens when you get to days like Tuesday and Wednesday, though, where most of your rides are less than 2 miles and you're making $1.72 per ride? $1.72 every 10 minutes, sometimes 15. Well, you just keep going. You keep going, you keep driving, you keep pushing yourself. You get into a little Casey Jr. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. I know I can. I know I can. I fall asleep. You're drowsy. Bloodshot eyes. Can't focus. But what keeps you on the road? You have your son or your daughter or your wife. You need the money to pay the rent. Money that had Uber not cut the rates as drastically as they did, they would have already. And so, they just keep driving. And that's why people are really upset. Because I couldn't figure out, why are you so upset? You need to sleep. The reason they're upset is because Uber cut the rates to where they got into this mess. They got into this mess where they could not afford to live unless they drove more than 8 hours. Unless they drove more than 12 hours in some cases. And in fact, this must have been a lot of cases because Uber would not have noticed this if it was like a dozen people in the world. No, this was hundreds of people. Uber realized they had to do something. And now, not only did Uber put them in the situation that they had to drive the hours that they did, Uber is now saying, we are going to dictate that you can't drive those hours, thus cutting off vital time and vital hours that they need to provide for their family. Now, of course, there are tips and tricks where you don't need to do the base rate. And in most cases, I'm sure if you looked at most of these individual cases, you could make suggestions on how they could change their driving habits where they can make more money in less time. It's still possible to do that. I never said it wasn't. It's a lot harder, but it's still possible. But that's what's getting lost in all this discussion. The discussion should not be why are drivers mad that there is a cap on how long they can drive. The question should be, why are they driving this long in the first place when nobody's forcing them to? Oh, wait. Something is forcing them to. The fact they have no job, they're having a hard time finding work, and they started this in this industry that paid this much when they started and now pays this much. At this much, you have drivers that would gladly drive 4 to 6 hours, make decent money, go home, sleep. Everyone's happy. At this rate, they have to drive 8 to 10, sometimes more. And now you have drivers who are drowsy, sleepy, and not safe to drive. And Uber can pat themselves on the back and say, hey, we did a good thing. And you know what? Again, this is needed. Capping how long you can drive is a good thing, but it's still dishonest and still very telling that Uber created a situation where people felt and still feel that they need to drive more than 12 hours. And the thing is, this isn't going to fix it. And let me tell you why. Even if you drive for 12 hours, once Uber says stop, okay. Turn on the Lyft app. Keep driving. Nothing's going to change. And the only question you're going to find yourself with, where you have areas, especially LA and New York City, and I think to a lesser extent, Miami, Florida, you're going to find, will you, regardless what service you're using, be the passenger to get that person who is on 17 hours of driving because they are not getting paid enough to stop at 8? Are you going to be that person who's in that car when that happens? Uber is not protecting you from this. This is a real threat if you're a passenger. You say you want Uber rates to stay the same. You say you don't care that the drivers don't get paid much. This is your life. Your life is in their hands. And they are desperate enough to do what they are doing. And that puts you at risk. So if you're a passenger, I would be writing to Uber and Lyft, and I would be demanding that for your safety, they pay the drivers better. And that's all I'm going to have to say about that. What about you guys? Do you agree? Disagree? As always, I'd love to know. Just not through Facebook. Sorry, that's becoming a recurring gag. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the videos I make, consider becoming a patron member for $1 a month. And by the way, I have reached over 5,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. February 15th, 2018, 5 p.m. We're going to be doing a live stream celebration. I'll bring pizza, bring your own food. We're going to have a live stream party celebrating the occasion. Thank you. Have a great day, and I will see you on the Daily Rideshare.